Mason Powell slumped in his seat as Mr. Peterson droned on about covalent bonds. Chemistry was his least favorite subject, but he needed the science credit to graduate next year. He doodled absently in his notebook, barely paying attention until the classroom door opened. Principal Warner stepped in with a student Mason had never seen before. "Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Peterson. We have a new addition to your class." The new student stood perfectly straight beside the principal. She had dark hair that fell to her shoulders and pale skin with an unusual bluish undertone that Mason initially attributed to the harsh fluorescent lighting. "Everyone, this is Zora. She's just moved here and will be joining us for the remainder of the year," Principal Warner announced before leaving. Mr. Peterson pointed to the empty seat behind Mason. "You can sit there, Zora." As Zora walked down the aisle, Mason noticed something odd about her movements. They were too precise, almost mechanical. When she passed him, he caught a glimpse of her eyes, a violet color so vivid it couldn't possibly be natural. Contact lenses, he decided. Now, where was I? Mr. Peterson tapped his marker against the whiteboard. Ah yes, chemical reactions. Mason tried to focus but found himself distracted by the sound of Zora's pencil scratching against paper behind him. When he glanced back, he noticed she was taking notes with perfect handwriting, each letter identical and evenly spaced. When the teacher asked a question about noble gases, Zora's hand shot up immediately. "Yes, our new student," Mr. Peterson said, looking surprised. "Noble gases have a complete valence shell of electrons, making them chemically stable and unlikely to form compounds under normal conditions," Zora stated. Her voice had an unusual cadence, as if she was carefully selecting each word. Mr. Peterson raised his eyebrows. "That's completely correct. Very good." During group work, Mason turned to include Zora in his discussion with Olivia Garcia, who sat at the desk beside him. "So, Zora, where did you move from?" Olivia asked. Zora hesitated. "From far north. Small town. You wouldn't know it." "Try me," Olivia pressed. "My family used to travel a lot." "It's very remote," Zora said stiffly. "I would rather discuss the assignment." Mason noticed her fingers tapping an unusual rhythm on her desk. Not nervous, but systematic, like she was counting. When Mr. Peterson announced he would demonstrate a simple reaction, Mason saw Zora tense visibly. "This is just basic stuff. Sodium bicarbonate and acetic acid," the teacher explained, pouring vinegar into a container of baking soda. The mixture fizzed and foamed, a harmless reaction that most students had seen countless times. Mason turned around to share an eye roll with Zora about the elementary level demonstration. What he saw made his breath catch. Zora was completely rigid, her violet eyes wide and unblinking. Her hands gripped the edge of her desk so tightly that her knuckles had gone white, with a faint blue tinge. She wasn't moving, not even to breathe. If Mason hadn't known better, he would have thought someone had paused her like a video. "Zora," he whispered. No response, not even a flicker of recognition. "Hey, are you okay?" Mason waved his hand slightly in front of her face. Nothing. She remained frozen, a look of pure terror locked on her face. Mr. Peterson continued his lecture, oblivious to the situation. None of the other students seemed to notice anything wrong. Mason's mind raced. People didn't just freeze like that. It wasn't a seizure. He'd seen those before when his cousin had one at a family gathering. This was something else entirely. Slowly, after nearly 30 seconds, Zora blinked. Her chest rose with a sudden intake of breath. Life seemed to flow back into her body all at once. Her eyes met Mason's, and he saw something in them that sent a chill down his spine. Not just fear, but something alien. "You saw," she whispered, her voice barely audible. And in that moment, Mason knew his life was about to change forever. The bell rang, signaling the end of chemistry class. Students rushed to pack their belongings, eager to escape to lunch. But Mason couldn't move. He kept glancing at Zora, who methodically organized her pristine notebook and perfect pen into her backpack. What happened back there? Mason whispered as other students filed out. Zara's eyes darted around the emptying classroom. Nothing happened. You're mistaken. You completely froze. You didn't even breathe for like half a minute. She stood up abruptly. I need to go. Mason grabbed his backpack and followed her into the hallway. The corridor buzzed with students slamming lockers and shouting across the hall, but Zara moved through them like water, never touching anyone. Hey, wait up, Mason called, weaving through the crowd. He followed her outside to a secluded bench behind the science building. No one came here during lunch. It was too far from the cafeteria and too close to the dumpsters. Zara sat down, her posture unnaturally straight. You should forget what you think you saw. Look, if you have some medical condition, I get it. My cousin has seizures. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. A flicker of something, calculation, perhaps crossed her face. Yes, a medical condition. That explanation is acceptable. Mason frowned. That's not what I meant. I was just saying. Please lower your voice, Zara interrupted, looking around nervously. There's nobody here, Mason said, but he lowered his voice anyway. Look, I'm just trying to help. Zara studied him for a long moment. Her violet eyes seemed to glow slightly in the shadow of the building. Why would you help someone you don't know? The question caught Mason off guard. Because that's what decent people do. She sighed, a surprisingly human sound. I've made a miscalculation. My cover was supposed to last at least 3 months. Your cover? Mason's heart beat faster. What are you talking about? Zara's fingers began tapping that strange rhythm again. I should not be having this conversation. It violates protocol. What protocol? Are you in some kind of trouble? No, she hesitated. Not unless my supervisors discover my error. Mason sat down beside her, keeping a respectful distance. Zara, you're kind of freaking me out here. She turned to face him directly. If I tell you the truth, you will be freaked out considerably more. Try me. Zara took a deep breath. I am not from your world. I was sent here to study human behavior as part of an evaluation program. My species has been observing Earth for decades, but direct interaction data is required before official first contact can be approved. Mason stared at her. A laugh bubbled up in his throat, but died when he saw her serious expression. You're saying you're an alien. That term is imprecise, but essentially correct. Prove it, Mason challenged, his mind racing between possibilities. She was pulling an elaborate prank, or she was delusional, or... Zara glanced around once more, then extended her hand. Her skin began to shimmer slightly, and the blue undertone he'd noticed earlier intensified. Before his eyes, her fingernails shifted from pink to a pearlescent blue. Mason fell off the bench. This is a minor demonstration, Zara said, her hand returning to normal. I cannot risk more obvious displays. But you look human, Mason whispered, crawling back onto the bench. My appearance has been modified for this mission. The similarities between our species made the adaptation relatively simple, though maintaining it requires considerable energy. Mason's mind whirled with questions. What was that freezing thing in class? A fear response. My species becomes immobile when startled. It's an evolutionary defense mechanism. From baking soda and vinegar. The chemical reaction resembled a toxic gas release on my world. She looked away. I was not adequately prepared. So now what? Mason asked. Now I must ask for your discretion. If humans discover my true nature prematurely, my mission will fail. And if it fails? Zara's expression became grave. Then your world will be classified as not ready for contact for another century. Mason swallowed hard. That's a lot to put on one high school junior. I understand, but I have no choice now but to trust you. She extended her hand, normally human now, toward him. Will you help me complete my mission, Mason Powell? 2 weeks had passed since Zora's revelation, And Mason still couldn't believe he was helping an extraterrestrial navigate high school. They sat together in the library during their shared study period, whispering quietly between algebra problems. "So your planet is called Lyria?" Mason asked, keeping his voice low. Zara nodded, her pencil moving effortlessly across her paper. "It orbits a star you haven't named yet. It's approximately 63 light-years from Earth." "And you got here how exactly?" She gave him a sidelong glance. "I can't share that technology with you. Protocol." Mason sighed. This was a common response whenever his questions touched on anything too advanced. "Fine, but can you at least tell me why high school? If you wanted to study humans, why not observe scientists or world leaders? We need to understand all aspects of human society, including how your young are educated and socialized." She paused. "Also, teenagers are remarkably unobservant. Adults might notice my irregularities." As if on cue, Olivia dropped into the chair across from them. "What are you two always whispering about?" Mason felt his face grow hot. "Just helping Zara with American history. They taught it differently at her old school." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "Aha. And where was that again?" "Northern Canada," Zara replied smoothly, using the cover story they had rehearsed. "A small community, very isolated." "Right." Olivia's skepticism was obvious. "Well, don't forget we have that math test tomorrow, Mason. Though I'm sure your new friend can help you ace it." After Olivia left, Zara turned to Mason. "She suspects something. She thinks we're dating." Mason clarified, feeling awkward. "Not that you're from another planet." "Dating." Zara tested the word. "That would be a convenient explanation for our frequent interactions." "Whoa, I didn't mean. It's merely strategic," she said matter-of-factly. "Humans expect young people to pair off. It would explain why we spend time together." Before Mason could respond, the library's fire alarm began to wail. Students groaned and gathered their belongings. "It's just a drill," Mason started to explain, but stopped when he saw Zara's expression. Her face had gone rigid, eyes wide with that now familiar fear response. But this time, he was prepared. "Zara," he whispered urgently, positioning himself to block others' view of her. "It's safe. Focus on my voice." He had discovered that speaking calmly could sometimes help her break out of the paralysis more quickly. 5, 4, 3, he counted steadily, the way they had practiced. 2, 1. Zora blinked rapidly and inhaled sharply. "That sound," she whispered. "I know. Let's get out of here before anyone notices." They joined the stream of students heading toward the exit. Outside, Mason guided her to a quiet corner of the courtyard. "Better?" he asked once they were alone. She nodded. "That alarm resembles the warning sound for atmospheric contamination on Lyria." "We need to make a list of all your triggers," Mason said. "Fire alarms, chemical reactions. What else? Unpredictable loud noises, certain light patterns, large insects." "Insects? Really? Our world has nothing similar. They are disturbing." Mr. Wallace, the math teacher, approached them with a clipboard. "Powell and..." He checked his list. "Zara, you're both accounted for." As he walked away, he paused. "Zara, excellent work on yesterday's problem set. I've never seen someone solve differential equations that elegantly." After he left, Mason turned to her with wide eyes. "Differential equations? We're in algebra." Zara had the decency to look embarrassed. "I forgot to adjust my work to your grade level." "Great. Now the teachers are noticing you too." "I will be more careful," she promised. Mason ran a hand through his hair. "This isn't going to work if you keep standing out. You're supposed to be blending in, remember?" "It's more difficult than anticipated," she admitted. "Your world is full of surprises." Mason couldn't help but laugh. "You're telling me. Last month my biggest worry was passing chemistry, and now I'm helping an alien avoid getting discovered." For the first time, Zara smiled, a genuine, unguarded expression that transformed her face. "What?" Mason asked. "I believe I'm experiencing gratitude," she said simply. "Thank you, Mason Powell." He smiled back, ignoring the strange flutter in his chest. "You're welcome, Zara from Lyria." Mason paced nervously outside the girls' bathroom. Zara had been inside for 15 minutes, much longer than usual. He checked his watch again and was about to ask a passing girl to check on her when the door finally opened. "Sorry," Zara said, emerging with slightly damp sleeves. "I needed to make my report." In the bathroom, Mason whispered, guiding her toward a less crowded area of the hallway. "Water amplifies our communication signals," she explained quietly. "It's the most efficient way to contact my supervisors." "And what did you tell them about us? About Earth?" Zara hesitated. "That humans are more complex than our initial observations suggested." Something in her tone made Mason uneasy. "Is that good or bad?" "It's complicated. My supervisors are divided. Some believe Earth is ready for contact. Others think your species is too unpredictable." A loud slam made them both jump as someone dropped a textbook nearby. Zara flinched but didn't freeze, progress from their weeks of work together. "What happens if they decide we're not ready?" Mason asked, dreading the answer. "Earth would be classified as a non-contact zone for at least another century." Mason leaned against the wall, the weight of this responsibility suddenly overwhelming. No pressure or anything. As they walked to their next class, Mason noticed a man in a dark suit standing by the front office, watching students pass. Something about him seemed out of place in a high school. "Zara," Mason nudged her. "Don't look now, but I think that guy is watching us." She kept her eyes forward but stiffened slightly. "Describe him." "Tall, short hair, suit, earpiece. Looks government-ish." "How long has he been here?" "First time I've seen him," Mason said, guiding her around a corner. "Why would the government be interested in a high school?" Zara's pace quickened. "My communication device may have been detected. Earth's technology isn't as primitive as my superiors believed." In physics class, Mason couldn't concentrate. More concerning than the suited man was Olivia's behavior. She kept glancing back at Zara with open suspicion. When the teacher assigned lab partners, Olivia immediately claimed Zara, leaving Mason to work with Kyle Bennett. "Your girlfriend's pretty strange," Kyle commented as they set up their experiment. "She's not my girlfriend," Mason replied automatically. "Whatever you say," Kyle shrugged. "But everyone's talking about how weird she is. Never eats lunch, ace at every subject. Talks like she swallowed a textbook." Mason tried to appear unconcerned. "She's just shy. New school and all." Across the room, Olivia was interrogating Zara. Mason couldn't hear their conversation, but Zara's posture was becoming increasingly rigid, a warning sign. Then the classroom door opened, and Principal Warner entered with the suited man Mason had spotted earlier. "Mr. Lawson," the principal addressed their teacher, "could we borrow Zara for a moment?" The class fell silent. All eyes turned to Zara, who looked to Mason with barely concealed panic. "What's this about?" Mr. Lawson asked. "Just a few questions about her transfer records," Principal Warner said smoothly. "Nothing to worry about." As Zara stood to leave, the suited man's radio crackled. The sharp, unexpected sound triggered Zara's fear response instantly. She froze mid-step, her face a mask of terror. "Zara," the principal approached her. "Are you all right?" But she remained completely immobile, not even blinking. Mason jumped up. "She has a medical condition. Sometimes she just freezes up. I know what to do." Before anyone could stop him, he rushed to her side. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, he whispered urgently. The suited man watched with intense interest, speaking quietly into his earpiece. After what seemed like forever, Zara gasped and blinked rapidly. "See, she's fine," Mason said too brightly. But the damage was done. Half the class had their phones out, recording the strange incident. Olivia's eyes were wide with realization that something truly unusual was happening. And worst of all, the suited man was now speaking into his radio with renewed urgency. "We need to leave," Zara whispered to Mason. "Now." "How?" Her violet eyes locked with his. "I don't know, but more of them are coming." Friday night school dance was the last place Mason wanted to be, but Zara insisted they attend. "Large social gatherings are important to my research," she explained as they stood awkwardly near the punch bowl. "And we need to appear normal after yesterday's incident." The physics class episode had been officially explained as a mild seizure, but rumors were spreading. Mason had seen students pointing and whispering whenever Zara walked by. Even worse, 2 more men in suits had been spotted around campus. "We should just lay low," Mason argued, nervously scanning the dimly lit gymnasium. "Those government guys are still sniffing around." Zara shook her head. "My mission must continue. I have less than 3 weeks remaining." The DJ switched tracks to a popular dance song, cranking up the volume. Colored lights began to flash in rhythm with the beat. 3 weeks until what? Mason had to shout over the music. "Until my extraction," Zara replied. "When my mission ends, I—" Her words cut off abruptly. The pulsing lights had taken on a particular strobe pattern, and Mason watched in horror as Zara's eyes widened and her body went completely rigid. "Not now," he groaned, stepping in front of her to block others' view. "Zara, focus on my voice. 5, 4. But this was different from previous episodes. A faint blue glow began to emanate from beneath Zara's skin, pulsing in time with the strobe lights. Mason stood frozen himself now, unsure what to do. "Whoa, what's wrong with the new girl?" someone shouted. Mason turned to see a circle forming around them. Phones were raised, recording the strange scene. "She's like glowing," a girl squealed. "Is this some kind of weird dance move?" someone else asked. "Get back," Mason shouted desperately. "She needs air." But it was too late. Dozens of students were witnessing Zara's alien nature revealed. The blue glow intensified, now clearly visible even under the flashing lights. Olivia pushed through the crowd. I knew there was something weird about her. She held her phone directly in Zara's face, recording everything. "Olivia, stop." Mason tried to push the phone away. "The world needs to see this, Mason." "What is she?" The music suddenly cut off. Principal Warner stood by the DJ booth, microphone in hand. Everyone remained calm. "The fire department has informed us of a gas leak in the science wing. We need to evacuate the building immediately." The crowd's attention momentarily shifted, giving Mason his chance. He wrapped his jacket around the still-frozen Zara and began guiding her toward the side exit. "Where do you think you're going?" Olivia blocked their path. "She needs medical attention," Mason insisted. "Please, Olivia." Something in his voice must have reached her because she hesitated, then stepped aside. "This isn't over," she warned. Mason half-carried Zara out the side door, across the parking lot, and behind the stadium bleachers. Away from the lights and noise, her glow began to fade. "Zara," he whispered urgently. "Come back, please." After nearly 2 minutes, the longest episode yet, she gasped and collapsed against him. "What happened?" she asked weakly. "Everyone saw," Mason said, his voice breaking. "The lights made you glow, and everyone was filming it." Her eyes widened in genuine fear. "The mission." Mason's phone buzzed with notifications. He checked it and felt sick. "It's already online. #AlienGirl is trending locally." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. "Those aren't fire trucks," Zara said, straightening. "They're coming for me." "Who is?" "Your government. They've been monitoring unusual electromagnetic signatures. My communication attempts, and now this." She looked at Mason with desperate eyes. "They'll take me to a facility. Study me. Dissect me." Mason took her hand. Not if I can help it. Headlights swept across the field as several black SUVs pulled into the school parking lot. Men in tactical gear poured out, forming search patterns. "There's nowhere to run," Zara whispered. Mason pulled her deeper into the shadows. "Maybe not, but I know somewhere to hide." As they crept away from the school, Mason's phone continued buzzing. The video of Zara glowing had already been shared thousands of times. The secret was out. The question now was, what would happen to Earth and to Zara because of it? Mason's family's cabin wasn't much, just a small wooden structure by the lake about 30 miles outside of town, but it was their only option. His parents rarely used it except during summer, and he knew where they kept the spare key. "It should be safe here, at least for now," Mason said, flipping on the lights. The cabin smelled musty from disuse. Zara stood in the center of the room, perfectly still. She hadn't spoken much during their escape. A tense journey involving Mason's bicycle, a late-night bus, and finally a mile-long hike through the woods. "Zara," Mason approached her cautiously. "Are you okay?" She turned to him, her violet eyes reflecting the dim light. "I've received my final instructions." "What instructions?" "From your people." She nodded. "The mission is terminated. I am to return immediately." Mason felt a strange hollowness in his chest. "You're leaving. Just like that." The exposure was catastrophic. "My superiors have classified Earth as high risk and not ready for contact." Her voice was flat, emotionless. "I failed." Mason's phone, which he turned back on briefly to check the news, buzzed continuously. He glanced at it. Dozens of missed calls from his parents, from Olivia, even from Principal Warner, and hundreds of notifications about the viral video. "Look, it's bad, but maybe we can fix this," Mason suggested. "We could say it was a prank, special effects or something." Zara shook her head. "The evidence is too compelling. Your government agencies have already initiated containment protocols. They're searching for me using technology designed to detect my energy signature. How long until they find us?" "Approximately 12 hours. My extraction team will arrive before then." Mason sat heavily on the worn couch. "So that's it. You go home. Earth gets blacklisted, and we never hear from your people again. For at least 100 of your years, yes." She finally sat beside him, her movements stiff. "It's the protocol for planets that prove unpredictable or dangerous." "Dangerous?" Mason's voice rose. "You're the one who glowed blue in the middle of a school dance." "I apologize for my biology," she said with unexpected sharpness. "But your species' reaction confirms our concerns. The video has over 2 million views already. Your news networks are speculating about alien invasions. Your government is mobilizing specialized units." Mason couldn't argue with that. The last news alert he'd seen mentioned the National Guard being called in. "It's just fear," he said softly. "Humans fear what we don't understand." "As do my people," Zora admitted. "That's why the protocol exists." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of interstellar diplomacy heavy between them. "There has to be a way," Mason finally said. "Some way to show your people that Earth is ready, or at least deserves a second chance." Zara tilted her head. "What are you suggesting?" "I don't know exactly, but running away and never making contact again doesn't solve anything. It just leaves both our worlds in the dark about each other." She considered this. "My extraction point is at the lake, just before dawn. I could refuse to go. They'd just force you, wouldn't they?" "No. Free will is sacred to my people. They cannot compel me." She looked toward the window. "But staying would mean abandoning my world, possibly forever." Mason ran a hand through his hair. "I'm not asking you to do that, but maybe there's a middle option." Zara's communication device began to pulse with blue light. She removed it from her pocket, a small crystal that fit in her palm. "My final instructions," she said, holding the crystal up. A holographic message appeared above it, symbols Mason couldn't understand scrolling rapidly. After reading it, Zara's expression changed. For the first time, she looked truly sad. "What does it say?" Mason asked. "The High Council has voted. Earth is officially classified as non-contact. All research data will be archived. No return mission is planned for the next century." She lowered the crystal. "It's done." Mason stood up, suddenly angry. "No, it's not done. Not if we don't let it be. What can we possibly do against the decision of the Council? Show them they're wrong." Mason held out his hand to her. "Are you with me?" After a long moment, Zara took his hand. "What's your plan?" The stars shone brightly against the black canvas of space as Captain John Hayes watched the alien ships depart from the massive space station. His weathered face showed the signs of 20 years in the Earth diplomatic court. He rubbed his tired eyes and sighed deeply. For nearly 200 years, humans had kept the peace in a galaxy full of beings who seemed always ready to fight. It wasn't because humans had the best technology or the biggest fleet. In fact, many alien races had ships that could travel faster and weapons that could hit harder. But something about humans made the other races nervous. Perhaps it was how humans smiled when they were angry. Or maybe it was the stories they told of their bloody past on Earth. Whatever the reason, when humans spoke, the galaxy listened. "Another day, another fight stopped," said Lisa Coleman as she joined John at the large window. Her red hair was pulled back tightly, and her uniform showed her rank as a diplomatic attaché. "The Arkelians wanted the mining rights to that moon," John said. "The Vosk said it was theirs by ancient claim. I told them both they could share it or lose it." Lisa laughed. "And they agreed. Just like that." "Not just like that. They complained. They threatened. They tried to bribe me." John turned away from the window. "But in the end, they did what we said. They always do." The Proxima Centauri station was the largest human outpost outside the solar system. Built as a meeting place for all species, it had become the center of human peacekeeping efforts. In its great halls, humans had stopped wars before they began, settled trade disputes, and kept the fragile peace between races that had hated each other for thousands of years. John walked with Lisa through the busy main corridor. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved out of their way, some nodding respectfully, others glaring with hidden anger. "Did you hear about the riots on Earth?" Lisa asked quietly. John nodded. "The Earthers' First movement. They think we spend too much time solving alien problems and not enough on our own." "They're not completely wrong," Lisa said. "We've been the galaxy's police for 2 centuries. What has it gotten us?" "Peace," John replied simply. "At what cost?" Lisa challenged. "Half our fleet is tied up in peacekeeping missions. Our best minds work on alien problems. Meanwhile, Mars colonies still need supplies. The moon bases are falling apart and—" "I get it," John cut her off. "But would you rather see the alternative? The last time the Arkelians and Vosk went to war, 3 billion died." Their conversation was interrupted by John's communicator beeping urgently. The message was marked Priority 1 from Admiral Frank Miller, the head of the Earth diplomatic court. John read it twice, his face growing pale. "What is it?" Lisa asked, worried by his expression. "We're being recalled. All human peacekeeping forces. Earth is withdrawing from the Galactic Council." Lisa's eyes widened. "They can't be serious. The whole system will collapse without us." The vote passed this morning. 70% in favor. John slumped against the wall. "We have 1 month to pull out all personnel and ships." That evening, as John packed his office, an Arkelian diplomat named Zex Terrell came to see him. The tall, insect-like alien's mandibles clicked nervously. "Is it true?" Zex Terrell asked. "Humans are abandoning the Council." "We prefer to call it a strategic withdrawal," John replied, placing his family photo in a box. "You know what will happen," the Arkelian said, his compound eyes reflecting the light. "Without human peacekeepers, the old conflicts will return. My people have not forgotten our grievances with the Vosk." John looked at the alien sadly. For 200 years, we've been called warmongers for keeping you all in line. We've been accused of being aggressive, primitive, even barbaric. Maybe it's time for humans to go home and let the civilized races of the galaxy manage their own affairs. You doom us all with your pride, the Arkelian hissed before leaving. As the aliens' words hung in the air, John knew they were probably true. But he also knew that humanity had grown tired of bearing this burden alone, unappreciated and resented by the very beings they protected. The galaxy would learn soon enough what happened when humans walked away.